Yeah, I was supposed to be doing an impersonation of Popeye. Never mind. It turns out that being involved in a fairly high-speed car crash really gets into your head. About a month or so ago now, I was waiting to turn right for oncoming traffic when I was hit from behind at least 40 mile an hour, I'd say. I learned from this that a well-adjusted headrest can save you from whiplash, but psychologically, it does you in a bit. I went to collect a loan car from my insurance company, who I can't fault at all. If you need car insurance, I can somewhat recommend LV. They were really very good. Went to collect a loan car and really didn't feel like driving. Got home and the loan car sat outside my house for about 3 days before I even went to the shops in it. Slightly aggravated by the fact that it was a Fiat Tipo, and if anybody ever offers you a Fiat Tipo, don't buy it. It's gutless. But that wasn't the only way it got into my head. I was going to do a sort of statistical nerdgasm type thing here, and just didn't feel like it. Was not in the mood at all. But kicking myself up the arse, I'm now going to give it a go, see where we get. There will be a few ums and ahs in this because I'm kind of totally winging this. I'm not sure where I'm going to go. One of the statistical bits I was going to give, and I'll put a nice little graphic up about nowish, is my blood pressure, which has gone down nicely. I attribute this mainly to eliminating things like crisps from my diet. I can usually judge if my blood pressure is going to be a bit elevated is if I have something salty. I don't cook with salt, never have, so that wasn't too much of a problem. And just not eating crisps, as I believe I may have mentioned before, was one of the things I did, and it seems to have had a pretty good impact. One of the beneficial impacts, however, of the accident was when the paramedics turned up, mostly to look after the other driver, who I must admit I thought killed himself when I first got out of my car. In the end, he walked away from the accident. But they gave me the once over, and one of them was the stabby glucose test, and my glucose was 5.9, which is a lot lower than it was when I had it done in the incident that kicked off this whole malarkey, which was 13, which suggests to me that the metformin and a slightly more sensible diet than I've been having is doing its thing. Can't complain. Yesterday I went for the first part of my initial reassessment. They do it in two parts. There's one where the blood's taken and various tests, and they make sure I can still feel my feet and weigh me, and that went pretty well. Haven't had all the blood test results back yet, but my blood count's good and my liver and kidneys are both working properly. Haven't had the glycosylated hemoglobin back yet, and that will be the subject of next week, of the next video, if it is of any interest at all. But things are going in the right direction. One thing in the last few days, and I'm fairly sure I'm attributing this to the metformin, is feeling really, really rough for a couple of hours after I take it. Like, after half an hour, I start to feel a bit rough, and then sometime later it's eased off. I thought that might initially be that I was taking them too close together because I got out of the habit of getting up early in the morning to take the first dose. But I think I will have a chat with the doctor about that, just to be on the safe side, because there are some potentially unpleasant side effects. But other than that, mostly the last month has been about recovering from a shock, and getting the diabetes was at least 50% annoying as it was shocking. Being in a car crash when you were just going out to take some photos is really nasty, even when you walk away with it with nothing more than a nasty bruise on your arm and a slight bump on your head, and quick concussion check the next day by my GP, and all was clear and I seemed to be okay, unhurt. I ached in places that I didn't know ached. But focusing on this and focusing on the cooking that I'd started doing, which was going really well, and keeping the biscuits out of the diet. That's not particularly difficult, but even then it took a bit more willpower than I was expecting just to do something that had been very easy for the previous sort of 6 weeks or so. And not having pancakes when I go to the local pancake parlour, but having, you know, coffee and something less sugary, became a bit more of a chore. And it's kind of a real thing. And I'm sort of coming around to being okay now. But it shook me. And anybody who's been in a car crash, if you know anybody who's been in an accident, even if it's not a particularly high speed one, they will be shaken, so be nice to them. Lots of people were really, really good to me, and I am very, very grateful for that. But now I'm trying to haul this back on. What I had intended to talk about was the concept of glycemic index and glycemic load, and I've not really got enough detail. I haven't had the inclination to do the research for the sort of things I want to do, except discovering that Weetabix, which have always struck me as a very, you know, sort of fairly healthy cereal as cereals go, is really high in sugar. Very high glycemic index, I think it was about 57 if I remember rightly, which is high, but also quite high glycemic load, which is a thing that adjusts for the actual dose, the portion size that you're having. And even in the pathetically small portion sizes that all these things assume, they clearly haven't met me, there was a lot of bloody sugar in them, which came as a surprise. So I'm having to sort of try other things. Shredded wheat is good, which is useful because I like that. And I've been having a lot of porridge as well, which I've really discovered a bit of a taste for. Hot breakfast in December is really quite nice and apparently good for you. Whether it's good for you after I've put some honey in it to make it taste a bit better, matter of opinion. Sadly, one of the things I haven't been on as a direct consequence of the accident was a thing called Desmond, which is the educational course that they like to send newly diagnosed diabetics on. I was due to go to that the day after the crash, but of course, I didn't have a car first thing in the morning, and by the time I got the car, I really didn't feel like driving anyway, so I postponed that, and I will be going to that in 2 weeks, I think it is. In addition, next week I get my retina scan, so I find out if my eyes are okay. Other than the usual age-related crap that's been going on over the last couple of years. But that's kind of it. I just wanted to do a status update, and just if somebody's had a bit of a trauma, be nice to them. It does make an awful lot of difference, and the people who were nice to me made a lot of difference, and not just people I know. People in the coffee shop I go to were just lovely and gave a shit, and that makes a world of a difference. But they won't be normal straight away. They can't just, metaphorically speaking, get back on the horse. The old "if you fall off the bike, you've got to get back on" thing, I don't think is entirely true. It depends on the manner in which you fall off the bike. So I will hopefully get back to some proper stuff, and I will do a proper nerdgasm, look at a few foods that have surprised me in terms of their glucose content, and start looking. I may even start taking a look at some of the various diets that people are recommending. I've just been selected to, it's a phone call just now, I've just been selected to take part in a study about chronic headache, which I may or may not be able to comment about in full-time. Again, not particularly related to diabetes. The main thing about today's vlog, I believe that's what they're called, vlog, was just to sort of keep it moving. Can't actually remember where I was before my phone rang. Yes, I was going to sort of investigate foods that had surprised me on the sort of researching their glycemic index and glycemic load. And it's something I will do. I've just got to actually sit down with the bloody spreadsheet open in front of me so I can look at it. And the University of Sydney has a very good website about it. Although obviously they're using sort of Australian brands, so it's not always easy to find what you're looking for. And I will report back from my retina scan, and hopefully a proper report from Desmond. I hear they're tend to be very well received, and I'm fascinated. There are some questions I want to raise about foodstuffs, about different types of diet and stuff like that. But hopefully I'm sort of back in gear now, having been knocked out a little bit, or knocked sideways, knocked out to the wrong image. So here we go again.